Now imagine myself, a good God-fearing man, sitting in church on Sunday. The pastor tells the scripture that we're reading from. I reach for my phone to open my Bible app, and what do I see? Kingdom Hearts 4 is being announced.
What's happening, Sly Gang? It is Lord 3rd, your number one trash player. And that is right. Square Enix has announced Kingdom Hearts 4 to the muted size of people all over. No, actually, the internet is quite abuzz with this news, at least people who are fans of the series or who have been fans of the series, which is basically black kids who grew up in early 2000 and other weebs all over the place. No, I'm kidding. There have been numerous fans of Kingdom Hearts throughout the years, and this is a momentous occasion? Question mark? Well, I'll tell you how I felt when I heard the news. Not excited for Kingdom Hearts 4. I'm not excited at all. If you listen to the podcast, if you have heard me before, if you've talked to me, you know that I think that Kingdom Hearts 3 was hot doo-doo garbage, and it is not worthy of a successor, a sequel. I don't care about how good Kingdom Hearts 4 looks. Yeah. No, I'm done. I'm done with Kingdom Hearts. Look, I don't have anything against you if you enjoyed Kingdom Hearts 3. But I, personally, as a kid who grew up with this series, this was one of my favorite games. Kingdom Hearts 1, especially Kingdom Hearts 2, was one of my favorite games. And someone who even followed the story, the convoluted story, the weird spiraling narrative that Tetsuya Nomura has somehow concocted as if on some sort of LSD trip. Somehow I followed it. You know, I am vaguely aware of what is happening at the start of Kingdom Hearts 3. And it did disappoint. It most certainly disappointed. Kingdom Hearts 3 for me was one of the most disappointing games. I would say that it is the most disappointing game that I have ever played. And I say that because typically when a game is coming out, I have a pretty good feeling on whether or not I'm going to enjoy it. And I was holding out hope for Kingdom Hearts 3. Kingdom Hearts 3 had boring gameplay, it had repetitive combat, it had terrible character progression and development, and from an RPG standpoint, the customizability doesn't really mean much in the face of fairly repetitive combat. People ask me, well, did you play the DLC? No. The value of the game should be in the game itself as it is released, right? You get the DLC because you really enjoyed the core game. You really liked the core game. And my biggest gripe was that the story was absolutely terrible. The story didn't resolve things in a satisfying way. The villain that they've been building up since the very first game, it basically ended in a Naruto Believe in Me ending where you fight this guy and then he stops being evil because the ghost of his old friend said, believe in them now. And then they shifted away to Disney heaven. No, it's absolute garbage, and I will not stand by it. Now, I've stated before that I don't have faith in Tetsuya Nomura as a director, but to be fair, that's not always his fault, because when you look at certain games like Final Fantasy VII Remake, he didn't even realize he was the director until they announced it to the world. This seems like a weird way to announce the director of a large game that people have been anticipating for over a decade, but again, what do I know? I'm just a guy sitting in his project room in Michigan complaining about a game that crushed all of his childhood hopes and dreams.
I missed the part where that's my problem.
All of that to say that they announced Kingdom Hearts 4, and I don't know, we're probably going to wait maybe 5 years until we see the fruit of this project. Upcoming Square Enix games. Jesus. Now, I don't know what Tetsuya Nomura has on his plate, but I do know that Square Enix has had a very bad track record of assigning him to things that are far beyond his actual scope of, I believe, his capability. He is not shown otherwise to be able to direct the entirety of a game well. I have said before that Tetsuya Nomura makes a good creative director. He is really good at art design and art direction, I would say. I think that his character designs are some of the best. I think that I think his style is very distinct for many of the projects that he's worked on, and they fit well. Even if it does get kind of boring after a while because the same basic characters can look the same. But I think he does a good job at, creating the aesthetic that they typically go for a lot of the Final Fantasy games. That being said, he is probably going to be the director of Kingdom Hearts 4, and so a lot of the issues that typically tend to plague a lot of the games that he directs are probably going to be the case for Kingdom Hearts 4. Hopefully they've learned from those previous mistakes. Hopefully he's gotten better, but seeing as though some of the recent games that he has been directly involved in have had some issues, I can't say that it is going to be better. With that being said, the only way that I will play Kingdom Hearts 4 is if I get it for free. And even then. With that being said, I hold nothing against you if you're excited for Kingdom Hearts 4. I'm glad that you felt that Kingdom Hearts 3 was worth it. I'm glad that you had fun with it. I just know that I didn't. I just know that I was disappointed. It should have been so much more. I think that the ending segment in that world between whatever the last area was called, that's not Callum or whatever it is. Yeah, whatever that world where you have the different fights and you're fighting with the different characters. I'm like, that should have been the entire game. That should have been all of Kingdom Hearts 3, was you get to play as these different key characters from throughout the entire arc up until this point to resolve their stories. It should have just been a chapter-based segment where these different characters, sure, they go to the different worlds, right? You go to, maybe Aqua is in whatever Master Eric's castle is or whatever, and they're trying to wake up Ventus or whatever it was. I'm sorry, there's like 3 of them. So, you throw a rock and you hit like a character that is basically Sora in an alternate timeline or something like that. I played much of Kingdom Hearts 3, and I'm waiting until it gets to that point where I'm like, yeah, this is fun, this is enjoyable. And it's not until the last 5% of the game where I'm like, oh wow, okay, we're seeing these characters interact, we're seeing these characters fight. I'm actually fighting these organization members, or I'm fighting alongside these characters that I care about. There's only like one 5-minute segment throughout the entirety of the game where you play as someone besides Sora, and it's 2 different parts, so it's like 2.5 minutes each, where you're playing as either Aqua or Riku, and it's for one story segment. And you're like, what was the point of that? This should have been the entire game. The entirety of Kingdom Hearts 3 should have been, you play as these different characters. You see that Axel is, or Lee, as his real name is. I'm sorry to use his dead name. So Lee is having this identity crisis, and he's, I guess, training with Kairi, but you never see them actually fight past like 3 seconds of a cutscene. Like, what did we spend so much time? Don't get me started on Kairi's entire character arc. This entire time they're building her up like, she's going to be training. She's training with her Keyblade. She's going to be one of the Warriors of Light or whatever the hell it is. One of the 7 lights that will fight the 13 darknesses. She gets captured and essentially killed. But she's not dead. And then you fight the big bad guy and she's still dead. And then they have the nerve to play. Don't think twice over this cinematic cutscene as if they just did something. As if they just wrapped up this 13-year saga. As if they did something. As if 16 years actually culminated in this game that I just played, where I still have more questions. There are more things that are unanswered, but you're just supposed to be okay with that. No, that's not how you make a game. That is not enjoyable. That is garbage. And I truly believe that people need to hold them to a higher standard. That's ridiculous. Kingdom Hearts fans, you are letting Tetsuya Nomura and Square Enix get away with this bullcrap. And it is unacceptable. They strung you along for 16 years. I'm going to say 13 because Kingdom Hearts kind of had a solid ending. It left it open for a sequel, obviously, but yeah, that's trash, dude. That's garbage. Absolute garbage. So yeah, Kingdom Hearts 4, there's no excitement. I heard that announcement and I felt nothing. The same nothing that I felt as that ending cutscene that Kingdom Hearts 3 played, with the absolute waste of an amazing Hikaru Utada song plays over this cinematic feature that is supposed to be evoking emotion, and I felt nothing. And that nothing that I felt, that void of darkness in my heart as Kingdom Hearts closed in that moment, was the same thing that I felt sitting in that church reading that headline. It's almost symbolic of the emptiness that you feel if you don't invite Jesus. I'm just kidding. And this is my declaration that I'm done, folks. It is over. There's nothing between Kingdom Hearts and I anymore. Kingdom Hearts 3 was the thing that ended it for me. But for you, I hope that if you are excited about this game, I truly hope that this is actually a solid game and it is a good experience for you. If you didn't feel the same way about Kingdom Hearts 3, that is perfectly fine. You know, we can have our difference in opinion. I respect that. And I truly am thankful that you enjoyed it. But I know for me, it was a load of garbage. It was a load of trash. As I said before, it was the most disappointing game that I have paid money for to play. With that being said, I want to hear from you. I want to know, what did you think of Kingdom Hearts 3? What have you thought of this series? How did you feel when Kingdom Hearts 4 was announced? Let us know in the comments below. Drop us a line. Thank you for watching the video. Thank you for checking it out. I am going to be we are working on more content. We had a little bit of a hiatus at the beginning of the year in terms of videos, but there are at least 4 videos in the queue right now that we're working through. So stay tuned, subscribe so that you can follow new releases. We've got new episodes of the podcast coming soon. So with all of that being said, thank you all for checking out the video. I appreciate you being here, and be excellent, be kind to folks, and I will see you later. Peace. This is not good writing. This isn't. It's bad.